Hey, good afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and this is The Drive for Friday, September 8th. We're glad that you're with us. Listen, this is one of my favorite times of the week because we get to do Fone Ur Farb Friday, not once but twice, coming up in the 4 o'clock and the 5 o'clock hours. So you don't want to miss that, okay? Get ready with your thoughts, your best stuff. Bring your A game for Fone Ur Farb Friday coming up just a little bit here on The Drive. Mac Morey's there in the newsroom. Chris Weber is in the control room, and I am your friend and radio buddy. And we are moving forward with news about the impeachment of Joe Biden. Well, we're not ready to get to impeachment yet, but looks like we're getting very close to something known as an impeachment inquiry. James Comer is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, and, he's been digging in on Hunter Biden, but really, honestly, it's not about Hunter Biden. The real question, he doesn't care anything about Hunter Biden. Whatever happens to Hunter Biden happens to Hunter Biden, but what the question here is did Hunter Biden have a relationship with his dad, and where he received, the benefits of this businesses that Hunter Biden had all over the world, with some of the biggest thugs known to mankind, and did he receive, and was there any this for that? Was he basically compromised? Did he do things so that money would flow to the Biden family? Those are the real questions there, and they are, it would seem to me, potentially impeachable offenses. So, now how do we get there? How do we get to an impeachment of Joe Biden? Starts with an impeachment inquiry. And James Comer was on Newsmax, and he said, we've got the votes to go forward in that regard. There was some question about whether or not some moderates would balk, but Comer says he thinks we have the votes.
I do believe that we have the votes for impeachment inquiry. I think that with the revelation of all these emails, that Joe Biden was communicating with Hunter Biden about his business, about all of the corruption that he was involved in. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back with a few of the Republicans that were a little nervous about going the route of impeachment inquiry. They realized that we need this tool to be able to win in court, because that's where we're headed. We've just about picked all the low-hanging fruit. Now we've I guess, surprised the Biden legal team by the route we went. I think they thought we would start on day one and subpoena Hunter Biden. If we had done that, it would have been locked up in court, and any request we had, they would have said there's pending litigation, and they would have run the clock out. But right. We got the shell companies, we got the bank records of the shell companies. So we built a case that'll win in court. And with respect to the emails, I didn't think there would ever be an email, a government email between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden talking about his business or talking about Ukraine. What I never dreamed of is they would have never used pseudonyms. And what we're finding is there's probably thousands of emails. So this is just more evidence of wrongdoing by Joe Biden.
And Comer says he makes predictions that things will get going pretty quickly. I mean, this is the 8th of September. He says, get ready. We'll take this vote probably sometime in mid-September.
I would predict that in the middle of September, we have a vote. I would predict that it passes, and I will predict that we will use that with all these government agencies that are refusing to turn over valuable information, like the National Archives. We'll use that with the banks when we're in court that were cooperating with us, and now they're being threatened by the Biden legal team not to cooperate with us. And, my job from day one has always been to get the facts, present the facts to the American people, get the evidence. It's been hard. When you fight the DOJ, and when you fight the FBI and the IRS and the Secret Service, it's difficult. But I believe we've gotten more information than anyone would have ever dreamed possible. And yet there's still a lot of information yet to.
Yeah, yet to come. And when it comes to Hunter Biden, there's a lot of talk that, there's going to be an indictment of Hunter Biden before September 29th. On or before September 29th. And Comer says, look, the gun charge, honestly, there's one thing that we haven't thought about. Yes, should he be brought to justice for breaking gun laws? If that's what happened, yeah. But really, it's interesting that the special prosecutor has gone after that particular charge.
Yeah.
Look, the gun charge is the only one of the dozen crimes that Hunter Biden has committed that you can't tie into Joe Biden. It's the one charge that you can't nail Joe Biden on. Everything else, the money laundering, the violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, the tax evasion, the bribery, everything else, the racketeering, you can tie Joe Biden in with that. The gun charge is the only thing. So, you know, call me skeptical, but I'm still have no confidence in these special counsel Wise.
Well, so, you know, the Bidens have just sort of laughed off this whole idea of an impeachment inquiry. What exactly is an impeachment inquiry? It's not an impeachment. An impeachment, think of an impeachment as if the House is coming up with an indictment. You know, can they pass, is the House acting as a grand jury, can hand up an indictment to the Senate for trial. That's what is impeachment. But impeachment inquiry is simply by declaring that you have an impeachment inquiry, you're going forward with impeachment inquiry, gives you the House sort of supercharged abilities. It's, as somebody put, it's the apex of power that the House can have to investigate certain things. So if an impeachment inquiry is passed, the House will have special powers to go after, subpoena, bring documents, bring people in, and there you have it. GOP investigators are threatening, according to Breitbart, Hunter Biden with congressional testimony, order him to come in and testify before Congress if he withholds leaked court documents. This is, let me just read some of this. Republican House investigators threaten Hunter Biden with testifying before Congress if he refuses to provide leaked court documents about his conduct, now defunct plea deal with U.S. Prosecutor David Weiss. In a letter Wednesday from House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan, and Ways and Means Chair Jason Smith, to Hunter Biden's legal representatives, the Republican chairman demanded information given the documents were leaked to the New York Times and Politico, thereby negating any alleged duty of confidentiality. Given that these disclosures have been made to two media outlets and this information has been widely publicized, no basis exists to withhold these documents and communications from the committees, including on the basis of any purported duty of confidentiality, work product, or any other privilege interest. In other words, if indeed these documents were leaked by the team, the Hunter Biden team, for one reason or another, then you give up your right to say, well, that those documents are protected. Should you refuse to provide the committee with the requested information because of any purported privilege, the committee may need to seek testimony from you and or Hunter Biden regarding the disclosure of these documents and these communications. The Times published an article August 19 revealing that the Department of Justice planned to let Hunter Biden off the hook without charges until two whistleblowers came forward. The report also said that not only did the whistleblower's testimony stop the cover-up, but that Hunter Biden's lawyers demanded the DOJ prosecute the whistleblowers for speaking out against his special treatment, which would be a violation of President Joe Biden's promise to protect whistleblowers. See, there you go. There's the connection. That's the thing that they're ultimately getting at. Because Joe Biden has said, I've not been involved. But if the DOJ got in the middle of all that, it brings into question whether or not President Joe Biden is being neutral, as he has said he would be. I mean, I'll tell you about neutrality. Joe Biden is setting up a war room inside the White House, a quick response war room. And why would you do that? If you've done nothing wrong, then you don't have to do that. You just simply say, hey, I know in my heart I've done nothing like what you've alleged. So, you take your best shot, but you're not going to find anything because I didn't do it. But if you start setting up a war room, it sort of suggests that, well, maybe I do have something that I need to protect here, some information, some document, this, that, or the other. So I'll set up a war room, spend a lot of money, by the way, to do it. It's not taxpayer money, as I understand it. And then there's this. The feds, some of the feds were alerted to whistleblower concerns over Hunter Biden's business dealings way back in 2015. This is when Joe Biden was Vice President Biden. Morgan Stanley whistleblowers raised concerns to bank and federal regulators about fraudulent schemes and suspicious transactions. Banking whistleblowers first began raising alarms about Hunter Biden's business deals as long ago as the spring of 2015, when his father was still serving as vice president, flagging what they feared were suspicious transactions and fraudulent schemes. One of the bankers became so concerned, he eventually escalated his concerns to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, only a few days before Donald Trump won the presidency in 2016. This, according to documents provided to Congress and obtained by Just the News. Due diligence on involved parties reveal less than clean records, a Morgan Stanley investment banker compliance presentation from May 15 stated, specifically providing a dossier about Hunter Biden's background, his expulsion from the Navy, his association with the Ukrainian energy company Burisma Holdings, and photos of the future first son with Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Presentation, one of the earliest known whistleblower activities to raise serious questions about Hunter Biden and his foreign business exploits. It triggered suspicious activity reports, so-called SARs, that are filed by banks, and an SEC complaint that would eventually lead to the 2016 indictment of several Hunter Biden business partners in a bond fraud scheme, and later FBI and IRS investigations targeting Hunter Biden himself for tax evasion. Well, if they had it way back in 2015, why did it not go anywhere? Well, you know why it didn't go anywhere. The fix was in. The fix was absolutely in. So we're headed into a raucous fall and probably a pretty riotous spring, as the House of Representatives is gearing up for what looks to be a really deep investigation. Now, we don't want to just focus. I want to make sure everybody understands we're not just focusing on Hunter Biden here. Hunter Biden is a part of the story. But this investigation in the House of Representatives is aimed at one person and one person only, and that's the President of the United States. The question, was there a this for that? Did he do things when he was vice president because some, nefarious people were sending money to his son? And indirectly, to his family. That's the real question here. Was there a this for that? Was there a quid pro quo? Is our president compromised? All of these things are going to heat up in the next few days as we begin this thing that is known as an impeachment inquiry. And how it plays out, I think Comer's done a great job of getting a lot of the evidence and already in-house before he started down this road of impeachment inquiry. It's going to be a fight, and it's going to be interesting. I think there's an awful lot of material there that suggests that this president did the things that he's alleged to have done. I mean, after all, he's actually bragged about one of these things in a speech that he gave. The son of a gun. They fired the prosecutor. So get ready, buckle up. It's going to be a very interesting fall. Right now, 20 minutes past the hour. Well, let's talk about Everseal. We'll start off by asking the question, well, what is it? Well, Everseal is a sealant. It's an amazing sealant used for years in industrial applications. The folks at Everseal figured out how to take that industrial application and provide a permanent solution for sealing your exterior wood and concrete at a price that home and business owners can actually afford. They come in, first of all, and they do a very deep cleaning of your wood and concrete, make it look as new and shiny as it possibly can. Then they use their patented sealant, which absorbs all the way through to become a permanent part of your wood or concrete and will prevent further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. I'm not making it up. 30 to 50 years. That's something, isn't it? I mean, why would you go through the process of doing an annual sealing of your deck or your concrete when you could do it one time and then be done for 30 to 50 years? Think about all the money you would save. Think of all the time that you would save. I'm telling you, this is a good deal. And if you're interested in it, why don't you reach out to Steve Nelson and the team over at Everseal? They'll answer all your questions. I mean, do it once and forget it. That's what you need to think about. 844-EVER-USA. That's 844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com.
President Biden has announced a plan to cut down on tax loopholes, Georgia election interference case update, and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi set to run again. We'll fill you in at 3:30. Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 25 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Mac Morey is there in the newsroom. Good afternoon to you, Mac. Always good to see your bright, shining face.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
In its proper place. And there's Chris Weber. And yeah, there's Chris Weber. He's got his he's got his Georgia Bulldog regalia on today.
Yeah, baby. It's Friday.
Yeah.
Got to get my game face on.
That's right. I understand. Yeah. No, I have, and your Bulldogs are looking pretty good this year, aren't they? I mean,
they're all right. Yeah. Number one, right?
I feel like number one in the country, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like number one in the country.
That's your sort of thing.
At least they're not the Volunteers. That's what I would say. No, I'm just messing with you. I don't know nothing about college football. I like a good game, but I can't follow it the way you guys do.
And it wouldn't matter. My Bulldogs are on at 11 in the morning, so first game of the day sort of thing.
Right.
But It wouldn't matter if they played at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, I would still be in front of my TV tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock watching football all day. I love it.
People talking. When a bunch of guys get together and they start talking about football, I just have to go silent. I mean, I just observe and listen and see if I can learn something. And it's not that I don't enjoy football. I love a good football game. I mean, there's nothing I enjoy. And if I find a good one, I'll sit and watch it. It's no doubt about it. It's just that it is to be a real rabid fan is such a time suck.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, and I look at it and I go, I really, I do enjoy football, but I mean, I can't commit to losing that much time. I feel like there are other things that I need to be doing.
Yeah, so there's nothing that I need to be doing that's more important.
More important, I know. Well, for some people, for some people it's college football. For some people it's guitars. I mean,
That's true.
That's it.
Everybody's got their thing.
Everybody got their own thing. Metro Nashville Police Department crime analysis shows some good news and some bad news. I mean, the good news is actually not that great, but it does indicate that at least the violent crime is going in the right direction, which is down. Police say there have been 76 homicides this year, and that stands at about 4% less than last year. It's still awful high, it seems. The largest drop was in the Hermitage area, where they have shown a 16% decrease. So that's a good thing, I would say. There have been 20 homicides added to the total since late July. Madison, by the way, seeing the largest jump in homicides. So if Hermitage is down 16%, Madison is up 15%. Just saying. And 20 homicides added to the total since late July. Wow. That's 20 souls. Police are hoping to continue to see the downward trend of violent crime, but they're hoping to bring down the huge increase in the other kind of crime that is way, way up. And that is car thefts. We tell you often that, people are stealing guns like crazy out of cars, but it is also true that people are stealing cars at a pretty high rate. Auto thefts, the fastest rising crime in the area. Locking your doors and making sure there are no valuables left inside of criminals could prevent you becoming a victim. According to preliminary data, auto thefts are up 50% compared to last year. Are you ready for this number? This is a shocking number. I mean, this and we're talking only about Davidson County, right? Metro Nashville Police Department, only about Davidson County. And it's probably, a problem in other counties as well. Over 3,200 car thefts have been reported so far this year. I mean, come on. Is that just me, Chris? But that seems like an awful high number.
That seems like a big number, yeah.
There have been 586 reports since July. The number may even be higher because police say preliminary data only accounts for crimes that have been reported in Nashville and Davidson County, and not all crimes are actually reported. How about that? I mean, if your car was stolen but you found it a block away, you're probably not going to bother, are you? Are you going to bother? I don't know. Maybe you would. But 3,200 car thefts in Davidson County. Wow, that's really, to me, it's quite shocking. Just the News has a story talking about how so many people have now gotten into buying guns. U.S. gun sales have topped 1 million for 49 consecutive months, according to newly released data that has Second Amendment advocates and gun violence prevention groups at odds over what it means. Americans' aggregate purchases of firearms has modulated somewhat, with two slight but noticeable dips in 2009 and 2017, but have generally trended upward since then. Listen to this. Reporting on the figures released last week, the Washington Examiner concluded that the forecast would be the third strongest year of gun sales based on background check data from the National Institute of Criminal Background System, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, NICS. And the bottom line here is it seems that the reason, according to surveys, that more and more people are buying guns is they do not feel safe. Do not feel safe in America. 31 minutes now past the hour.
"31 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 83 degrees on Music Row and a good weather weekend ahead. Clear and sunny skies. Traffic, weekend weather forecast coming up in just a few minutes. The president promised he'd get tough with wealthy American tax cheats, and now the IRS has announced a plan to do that. Andy Field with the latest from Washington.
Last year's inflation reduction law gave the IRS $80 billion to get tough with the richest Americans who don't pay their taxes. Now the tax collectors are using artificial intelligence and more auditors to recover unpaid millions due from 1,600 American millionaires. The artificial intelligence spots spending and banking patterns and compares them to the millionaires' income statements, and then the auditor pays them a visit.
Georgia election interference case update. A Georgia judge has released the findings of the grand jury, which led to last month's racketeering indictments against former President Trump and 18 others. Senator Lindsey Graham and former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn were among those recommended to be charged, but were never charged. The DA was not bound by the special purpose grand jury's recommendations and was free to pursue her own charges. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she'll seek re-election to her California district. The 83-year-old has represented California District 12 for more than 35 years. Brittany Shepard.
On Friday, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley's campaign using Pelosi's announcement to re-emphasize their stance on an aging Washington leadership. Her press secretary Ken Farnaso tweeting that, quote, Nancy Pelosi has been in Congress since the Reagan administration. It's time for a new generation of leadership and congressional term limits. Haley herself has yet to sound off.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
38 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson. You're listening to The Drive on this Friday, the 8th day of September. And, wow, it's turned out it was a nice morning this morning. Very pleasant. Glad you're with us here. I hope we get you home safely so you can start a nice weekend, all right? I want to talk about the border situation again. Yesterday, we talked about how the people in New York City were whining and moaning and complaining about all the migrants that have found their way there. And we talked about how, it's sort of interesting that on one day they were going, hello, we're a sanctuary city. That's right. You're welcome here. Come to the city of angels. Come to Los Angeles. Come to the Windy City. Come to the warm, supple bosom of New York City. You will be welcome here. And then they all did that, and then all of a sudden, you're welcome here until you get to be a pain in our butts, and then, well, enough of that nonsense. Mayor Eric Adams says that what's happening with the migrant influx into New York City is going to destroy his town.
Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City.
It will destroy New York City, he says. And by the way, he levels the blame. He points the finger right at the governor of Texas. He says, we got 110 migrants, 110,000 migrants that have come to New York City. And he points the finger of blame at the governor of Texas. And the governor of Texas says, well, we sent some, 13,000. About 12% of the ones that you're talking about. You can't blame us for all of this. Never in his speech, where he talks about how bad this is, and it's going to destroy the city, and that we're gonna have to cut services, blah 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 blah. He never once mentions the name of Joe Biden. I take you now to the I don't know what when you're on a ship, you have port and what's the other side of it? I forget.
Starboard
side. To the starboard side of Air Force One, in the rear, in the back, near the galley, where Karine Jean-Pierre is holding court with on Air Force One as it travels to India. And listen to what she says about the problem when asked about it.
Eric Adams' comments on the migrant crisis destroying New York City, implication being there that President Biden and Washington writ large and his governor are not doing enough. Any response?
So a couple of things. I do want to lay this down because I think it's important. So we've been taking action to support communities across the country who are managing the arrival of migrants. And in New York, specifically to your question, Amr, we have worked closely with officials at the state and city level to coordinate efforts and provide recommendations and identify possible efficiencies in their operations. We have provided the state and city more than $140 million in federal funding through DHS just this fiscal year. Only Congress can really reform. You hear us say that the president has done all that he can from his purge, but we need more, and we need Congress to act.
Did you catch that last little bit there that she said? Here we go. I'll play it for you again.
The president has done all that he can from his purge, but we need...
The president has done all that he can from his purge. Well, you know what that is. I mean, come on. He could end this in a heartbeat. We need Congress to act. No, we don't need Congress to act. What we need is for the president of the United States to suck it up and do what a president is supposed to do, which is protect the country. Protect the country from this surge of people coming across the border. I mean, I know that some of these people are not bad people. Get me, I understand that. But how many of them are bad people? You're not doing any real thorough vetting, so, you don't know. A lot of people come and they want to be in contact with the Border Patrol, but there's about 1.6 million gotaways. People who actually run because they're not good people. They run from the Border Patrol. They run from the people at ICE. They don't want to be here. And all you have to do is do what Donald Trump did, which is snap your fingers and send a memo down to the Border Patrol and tell them to start doing their jobs the way they're supposed to do them and quit putting handcuffs on the people who want to secure the border but are not being allowed to secure the border because of the policies that are promulgated by this president. For Karine Jean-Pierre to suggest that there's nothing the president can do.
And we need Congress to act.
They need Congress to act, but he says, you know what? There is nothing the president can do from his perch, and nothing more left for him to do. That's outrageous. That's outrageous. There's plenty. There is plenty this president can do. Biden administration has broken its self-imposed migrant cap for the second consecutive month. The Biden administration in August blew past its self-imposed limits on the number of asylum seekers it would allow into the country, releasing a group dominated by single males into the nation's interior. Interior Department Homeland Security data shows. Customs and Border Protection processed 45,403 migrants through the CBP One mobile application. Yes, they have an app to make it all easier. On average of roughly 1,465 migrants per day. The federal government in June capped the number of migrants who can apply at about 1,450. August was the second month that they failed to honor its own limit on asylum seekers. The Free Beacon reported that CBP One processed an average of 1,473 migrants each day in July. Wow. 1,473 migrants each day coming across the border. And those are the ones we know about. You know, I'm telling you, it's outrageous. Biden has launched a nationwide workforce initiative. Oh, you say, well, that's great. He's going to help Americans find jobs. No. President Biden's Department of Homeland Security has launched a nationwide workforce initiative that seeks to funnel millions of border crossers and illegal aliens into United States jobs, even as the U.S. labor force participation rate for Americans continues to decline. He's giving American jobs to people who are coming across the border illegally, or he wants to. On Wednesday, the DHS announced a first-of-its-kind national campaign to make millions of border crossers and illegal aliens who've been released into the U.S. interior aware that they are eligible for work permits to take American jobs. This according to Breitbart. And then this one. This one will send you over the edge. The Biden administration is reportedly weighing a stay-in-Texas rule as a mean of deterring would-be asylum seekers, making it easier to remove migrants who fail in their asylum claims. The administration is just struggling to come up with a publicly palatable way to appear to address asylum. The Los Angeles Times cited unnamed U.S. officials who said the plan was under development but had yet to be finalized. The officials were not authorized to speak publicly on the matter. The plan would reportedly force migrant families to stay in Texas or other border states in which they crossed while their asylum claims are processed. You see, here, this is just, look, you got Texas, who's making the point to the rest of America by sending a few thousand migrants out of the hordes and hordes of migrants that are crossing the border illegally, sending a few to these sanctuary cities, just to make the point that, here, feel a little bit of our pain, you Democrat-led sanctuary cities. And then when they start to complain, the Biden administration says, well, we got a great idea. We're gonna pass some kind of legislation or regulation or some kind of rule that will require asylum seekers to stay in the state in which they cross. You know what I have to say about that? It is also, and maybe a little bit, unbelievable that they would try to do that kind of thing. Remember, you got 110 illegal migrants that have come into New York City, and only about 13,000 of those, about 12%, came from the state of Texas. The migrant crisis is not being caused by the governor of Texas. That's just simply not true. And anybody who tries to suggest to you that it is just not aware of the facts, or they're lying to you, one of the two. 12% would not cause the crisis we have here today. Many of these migrants are making their way to New York City on their own volition, without any help from the state of Texas. And by the way, the state of Texas doesn't bus anybody who doesn't want to go. They're not like rounding them up, putting them in a bus and say, leave our state, and then, putting them in handcuffs. They're saying, hey, we got a bus going to New York City. You want to ride? And they say, yeah, we do. As a matter of fact, that's where we're headed. If there were no buses from Texas, they probably would be there anyway. But the Texas governor did this as a way to make a statement that, we've got a problem. Here's a little dose of it in New York City. Now they got a big dose of it, but it's not the governor's fault. I don't know how in the world you pull this off. I don't know how in the world you make it happen. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to now make people stay in the state of Texas. And if I were the state of Texas, I'd get me a whole bunch more buses. It is 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, all you do is put all your money in that fund. You don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
President Biden in India for the G20 World Leaders Summit. Some crime in Tennessee after a brother shot his brother and almost hurt his mother. Some news in Philadelphia and flamingos in the volunteer state. That and more at 4. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's right. There are big pink birds in Tennessee. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Well, time to look and see what's going on with the market news. The Dow Jones Industrial up 75 today. S&P was up 6. NASDAQ was up 12. So all the major indices were ingrained. Not a particularly good week for the Dow. Standing by over at Beacon Capital Management is John Maxon to tell us a little bit more about that. Hello, John.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, good news, bad news. Good news, the market snapped a 3-day losing streak. Bad news, the market reacted pretty negatively this week to what continues to be elevated oil prices and really some mixed economic data that we're going to have to watch really closely, especially this next week around inflation. It's really being driven by the announcement of continued production cuts by Saudi Arabia and Russia and countries that aren't really friendly to the U.S., and then we also saw like jobless claims falling for the 4th straight week. So really the fear is the Fed is going to have to continue to raise interest rates to cool the economy off. And the market right now does not like that. Next week, we get the Consumer Price Index on Wednesday. That's going to be a key report to provide some clarity. And then the Fed meets again September 19th and 20th.
All right. Thank you very much, John. By the way, oil, Brent crude up $90 to $90 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude is just below that mark. So it bears some watching. By the way, find out about all the things they can do for you with the folks over there, John Maxon and the gang at Beacon Capital Management, by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 58 minutes past the hour.
Four o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 83 degrees in Nashville. Got a complete weather and traffic report headed your way in 5 minutes. Looks like it's going to be a nice weekend. President Biden is in India for the G20 World Leaders Summit. Karen Travers, the latest.
After arriving in New Delhi Friday, President Biden met with Indian Prime Minister Modi. The White House says the two leaders discussed a range of topics, including the Indo-Pacific region, values of democracy, artificial intelligence, and partnerships in technology and space. Top national security official Kurt Campbell told reporters he believes the most important relationship of the 21st century for the U.S. will be with India. Campbell said it was a disappointment for India that Russia and China are not attending the G20 summit, but he said their absence creates, quote, undeniable opportunities for the U.S. and India to strengthen and deepen ties.
Crime in Tennessee. Fox 17 reports that 38-year-old Quintez Kortner has been arrested after allegedly shooting his brother and almost hurting his mother. Reports indicate the brothers were fighting. Then Kortner pulled out a handgun, shot him several times. The mother was almost hit by this gunfire while trying to break the two up. Kortner was found later after running away and is now in jail on a $255,000 bond. And in Philadelphia, the police officer who shot and killed a man sitting in his car last month surrendered to authorities this morning on murder charges. Dave Packer.
Mark Dial, the Philadelphia officer accused of fatally shooting Eddie Irizarry Jr. last month, charged with first-degree murder, among other charges. Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner says police body cam video shows Dial
firing 6 consecutive charges at close range.
That video showing Irizarry never leaving his car, at odds with the department's original account of the shooting, which said the 27-year-old man lunged from his vehicle with a knife.
In Arizona, that wasn't a decorative Halloween skull placed in a donation box. Alex Stone.
The real human skull with a fake eyeball in it may have looked like a Halloween decoration, but it was real. Placed in a donation box at Goodwill in Goodyear, Arizona. Shoppers at the store saying,
I've never seen a human skull before. Not a real one anyway, you know.
Police say it was an historic item and not the victim of a crime. From what they can tell, the donator may not have even known it was real.
When you're in law enforcement and public safety, you never know what you're going to get.
Goodwill says its team followed protocol, and when they found the skull in their donation box, they called police.
Flamingos right here in the volunteer state. Flamingos have found their way here after the big storms in Florida. Reports say flamingos can be violent and to not approach these birds. The most recent sighting was last week on September 4th. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and we're so glad that you're here with us on The Drive on this Friday, September 8th. I want to mention that coming up at the bottom of the hour after the next newscast with Mac Morey, we will have our first of 2 editions of Fone Ur Farb Friday. Now, the idea here is that anything goes within reason. It has to be topical. It has to be something that you want to talk about that relates to what's happening in the world around you. You just can't get up there and blather on. I mean, although I do that sometimes. The idea here is for you, if something's got to be in your bonnet, a burr in your saddle, or you get up there and you express yourself. You climb up on a 100,000-watt soapbox, and so get your best stuff ready. Bring your A game here. And just when we come to you, by the way, stay on the phone once you've been screened, and then get right to it when I call your name, okay? So
that's right.
That's the way his game is played.
Since it's football season now, it's kind of the equivalent of if you want to get in the game, you got to have your helmet on the sideline. You can't just be sitting on the bench with your helmet off.
No, that's ready. Right. You got to be ready. That's right. Okay, so there you go.
Is that why I didn't play?
I know why I didn't play. Lack of talent. Let's talk a little bit about 2024. I got a question for you, and I'd like to go ahead and open up the phones for this. Who do you think Trump is going to pick as his vice presidential running mate? Now let's assume that. I mean, the last poll I saw, Trump had 65% of the vote among Republicans. And so it seems very likely that Donald Trump will become the nominee. Who do you think he will pick as his running mate? 615-737-9986. Love to get your take on all this. In the meantime, let me tell you a little bit about what's happening with Trump. An event in South Dakota to raise funds for President Donald Trump's presidential campaign has ignited rumors that the state's governor, Kristi Noem, could be his vice presidential pick. Noem expected to endorse the front-running Republican candidate at the sold-out political gathering in Rapid City, South Dakota today. The joint appearance of Trump and Noem has now fueled speculation that the former president is considering the South Dakota governor as a potential 2024 vice presidential candidate. We've not discussed it at all, Noem said. Noem, who's considered a presidential run of her own at one point, before Trump announced his intention to get into the race, would ask, would she run as Trump's VP? She said, yeah, I'd have to consider it. It's such an important time in our history when we see constitutional freedoms being undermined by leaders across this country almost every day. But, I mean, Trump has not said that Noem is it. He suggested he sort of likes Ramaswamy. He says he likes Tim Scott. He likes Kristi Noem. I have a suspicion he might even consider, if she's available and not running for the Senate, Carrie Lake of Arizona. One way or the other, a whole host of people out there who could be Trump's running mate. Who do you think it will be? 615-737-9986. A lot of open lines. Let's get after it, everybody. We start with Gordon in Hermitage. Gordon, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you think, Gordon?
I think it's Ron DeSantis that should, if he's got any sense, because the experience he will get working with under Donald Trump, he's a very, very good candidate. We don't have anybody that has his experience. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Gordon. I mean, honestly, I kind of think that. I don't know. It doesn't seem like that there's a warm relationship as there once was between Trump and DeSantis. But you know what? If he's the number 2 guy in the polls, maybe that would be something that people would. I'm not sure, though, if I were DeSantis that I would take it. I mean, being a vice president versus being, the governor of a state. I'm not real sure. I mean, who do you think out there? We got a lot of phone lines open on this Friday, 615-737-9986. Who do you think would be the best choice? Would love to have your take on this. I don't know if DeSantis is the guy. I really don't know. I mean, I'm assuming here, we're assuming a lot of things here. Number one, Trump is overwhelmingly the choice of a lot of people to be the presidential nominee. I mean, if you look at Trump, he's 35, 40 points ahead, 35 or 40 points ahead of DeSantis in every poll, and DeSantis is generally number 2. So, how about that? Who you gonna go to? Let's just check in with David in Hendersonville. David, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, David?
Brian, I'm wondering why the previous caller thought that Ron DeSantis could learn anything from Donald Trump and being his vice president, other than what he did to his previous vice president. Donald Trump has basically led the way into the mess that Joe Biden continues to lead on. And we need somebody that's not only better than Joe Biden, but we need somebody that's better than Donald Trump, who led us into this mess with the whole handing over of the country to the COVID advisors.
All right. So you're not buying the premise is what I'm hearing here.
Right. Exactly.
Not buying the premise of my question. Well, that's fair. I mean, I'm saying we're assuming for a moment that the polls are correct in that it would be very hard for any other candidate to overcome a 35 or 40 point lead. That's where we are right now. But again, it's early and we don't know what the days ahead will present. But thank you, David. I appreciate that. Kim in Murfreesboro, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, Kim? Who do you think Donald Trump, if he becomes the nominee, who do you think he'll choose as his vice presidential running mate?
There.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
I say Nikki Haley.
Okay.
She has excellent experience, and I feel like they work pretty well together.
Nikki Haley, I want to point out, there was a poll out, a CNN poll yesterday, that took every Republican who's running and put them in a face-off against Joe Biden and asked people who would win. Nikki Haley would win by 6, according to that poll, as the actual nominee. So maybe not a bad choice. Kim, thank you so much. I believe it's Pius in Hendersonville. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say? Hello?
Is that Pius?
Yeah, it's you, buddy.
Okay, I think Nikki Haley 100%. She will appeal to the women voters, and she's articulate. She has foreign policy experience. I think she's basically number 1, 100%.
All right. Would you prefer to have her as the nominee than Trump, or you just think she'd make a good vice president?
The vice president, not the nominee.
I got you. Just asking. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Pius. Appreciate it. Bob in Antioch, you're up next on the drive. Let's assume for a moment that these polls hold out and that Trump becomes the nominee as we go forward. Who should be the vice presidential running mate? Bob?
Hello?
Yeah, Bob, you're up.
Hey, I would like to see Trump, Haley, and Ramaswamy somewhere in the cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
Oh, but who would be the vice presidential running mate in your mind?
Nikki Haley.
Oh, you like Nikki Haley. All right. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who say that they're beginning to detect a surge on behalf of Nikki Haley. And that certainly that CNN poll didn't hurt her at all yesterday, for sure. Next up, it's Bill in Nashville. Bill, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Bill? Who would you pick if you were Trump looking for a vice presidential running mate?
Well, if I was Donald Trump and I wanted to throw a monkey wrench in the whole mechanism, I would pick Robert Kennedy Jr. to run as my vice president.
Yeah, and why would you do that?
Because I think there are a lot of Democrats that are moderate that would vote for that ticket because they're tired of having to back the liberals that they're backing now, and they're tired of swallowing that bile all the time.
Yeah. All right, Bill, thank you so much. You know, one of the things people say, well, what does a vice presidential running mate do for you? In some cases, it's a state that is important in the electoral college process or in the primary process. Like, Nikki Haley, South Carolina, might be helpful there. But other people say, no, it doesn't really matter. You just need to make sure, like I'll give you, Obama went for Biden under the premise, which I think is not a great premise, but nonetheless, that Obama had no foreign policy experience and Biden was perceived by some to have some. I think he's got the worst foreign policy judgment of anybody known to mankind, but nonetheless, that's one of the things that brought Joe Biden in as a vice president was the perception that he might help Obama in an area where he's weak. So you either try to help somebody where they're weak, or you try to help them in the primary process, or you help them in the electoral college process with an important electoral college state. But thank you for the call. Aubrey in Murfreesboro. Hello, Aubrey. You're on with Brian on the Drive.
Okay, Brian, I have two. If it's a straight Republican ticket, then I would like Representative Byron Donalds out of Florida. And I know there's a conflict there with residences, but they could fix that. On a mixed ticket, I go with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as well.
Really? Really?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
See, people tell me, why aren't you talking about Robert F. Kennedy? Because I think he's irrelevant to the process. I don't think anybody, is gonna get the chance to vote for him. But I'm going to have to stop and rethink my Kennedy position on this. Okay. Thank you, Aubrey. Greatly appreciated. It would be interesting. Donald Trump and a Kennedy. How bizarre would that be? Howard and Shovelville. Howard, you're up next on the Drive. If Donald Trump is the nominee, who do you think he will choose as his vice presidential running mate?
My pick would be Mike Pompeo.
That's an interesting one. Former Secretary of State, former director of the CIA under Trump. You like him? Why?
Yes, sir. He's got the experience. He knows how to handle things in Washington. He's a straight shooter, and he's going to tell it like it is.
And if I'm correct, I think they left on good terms, didn't they?
To my knowledge, yes, they did.
Yeah, to my knowledge, he did. He did for sure. All right. Well, let's see. That's interesting. John in Bowling Green. John, you're up next on the Drive. John, what do you think? Who would you pick if you were Donald Trump and looking for a running mate?
I'd say Kristi Noem. She's got the experience of running a state. She seems to have a level head on her shoulders. She's down to earth. She's firmly planted. You can't get much better than that as far as the vice president.
And she can come and fix your plumbing, apparently. That's what I saw in
go.
the commercial. Yeah, I mean, you know what? All right, John, thank you. David in Columbia, you're up next on the Drive. David, he's talking to Noem, and people say Noem might be a good shot. Who do you think should be the vice presidential running mate for Donald Trump?
Well, I'll be honest, man. I don't think it'll be the absolute choice, but I would like to see Candace Owens.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Well, I don't know that she's on many people's radar for that kind of thing.
No, she's not, but I personally would love to see it. I mean, every time she's been on TV, she's been, very realist with everything that she said, so I think it'd be a good choice.
All right, David, thank you so much. That's an interesting one from left field there, or one from right field, I suppose would be a better way to do it. All right, it is now 20 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. See, if you are desiring to add gold or silver to your portfolio, you need to listen very closely. I want to tell you about Nashville Gold and Coin. If you're looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand, gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do business, and it's a place I recommend. You'll get honest, friendly customer service, and in the process, a real precious metals education. They also specialize in the buying and selling and appraising of coins. Do you have any idea how much those old coins you have laying around might be worth? I brought in a box full of coins, actually not even a whole box full, just a few silver coins in the bottom of a shoebox that was in my sock drawer, and it turned out to be worth around $1,652. So whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. Just go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com, and tell them that your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
Senator Lindsey Graham responding to a Georgia grand jury report that had recommended he be charged in the 2020 Trump election interference case, a missing woman in Tennessee, plus some money news. What happened on the closing day of Wall Street? That and more 4:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. Again, a reminder that coming up at the bottom of the hour after the news, we'll get into our first round of Fone Ur Farb Friday. So get your best stuff ready. Bring your A game for that, okay? You know how that game plays. Yesterday, we brought you CNN polling, which really looked pretty abysmal for Joe Biden. Horrible. And then the New York Times, went on with their own little survey, which sort of backed it up. Organs of the left sending up the flare to the left that, hey, you know what, this guy, he may not be reelected because his in every single category that you can measure, his numbers are in the toilet. James Carville was asked to respond to that and asked for his opinion.
The polls are not not great, and it tells us that voters are expressing some apprehension here. It's pretty clear. I mean, there's not much else you can say when you look at them. There is apprehension out there. That's undeniable. You can't look at this and not say that you're concerned. It's just, for me to come on television and say I don't find this alarming or troubling at all would be stupid of me. I mean, I wouldn't do that. I'm sure the White House knows this, by the way. They're not, and they don't need to be told that the president has an age problem.
Yeah, the president has an age problem, but it's not just age. I think it really has to do with competency. They don't like what he's done with the economy. They don't like what he's done with the border. They don't like a whole host of things. And this number, I don't got to go through every jot and tittle of this thing that came out yesterday, but I got to tell you, it was horrible, horrific numbers. And Democrats, I think what's going to happen, you watch my word and see if I'm not right about this. You're going to start seeing a lot of Democrats who now start to come out and say, you know what, we may have to do something different or we're going to lose this election. And that's sort of what I've been suggesting was going to happen all along. I can't imagine the Democrats will ultimately nominate this guy, but I don't know who it's going to be. Gavin Newsom apparently thinks that Joe Biden will be nominated.
Filing deadlines haven't passed. President Biden doesn't run. Why shouldn't we consider you a likely
candidate? I think the vice president is naturally one lined up, and the filing deadlines are quickly coming to pass. And I think we need to move past this notion that he's not going to run. President Biden is going to run, and looking forward to getting him reelected. I think there's been so much wallowing in the last few months and hand-wringing in this respect. But we're gearing up for the campaign. We're looking forward to it.
We're talking about gearing up for the presidential campaign, not him, but being supportive of the ticket is the way I read his comments. So there you have it. Gavin Newsom, sounds like he's standing down, and it doesn't sound like that there's going to be a change. That he believes it would be Biden, and then followed by. If Biden somehow washes out, he thinks that Kamala Harris. Man, bring me all of that ticket that you want. Bring me some Kamala Harris. That'd be fun to watch. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I don't think it'll play out well for the Democrats. And I think they know that, and I think Gavin Newsom knows that. He's just, running the party line there. They're in trouble. The Democrats are in real trouble. As these numbers look, it is hard to imagine that voters will actually go into a voting booth after they have said some of the things that they have said in these polls and pull the lever, push the button, fill in the little dot for President Biden to be reelected. I just can't imagine they're going to want to do that. There's just one thing that Democrats probably dislike more than having to vote for Joe Biden, and that's that they don't like Donald Trump. I think that goes without saying. It is now 30 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 4:30. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 83 degrees currently in Nashville and a good weather weekend ahead these next couple of days. Clear and sunny skies. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham responding to a Georgia grand jury report that had recommended he be charged in the 2020 Trump election interference case. The prosecutor decided not to indict him. Andy Field with reaction from Washington.
Despite dodging an indictment on Georgia election interference, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham insists he did nothing wrong and that it will not stop him from helping Donald Trump in 2024.
I am standing with President Trump. I am proudly supporting him.
But Senator Graham famously said in 2016 that if Mr. Trump is the nominee, the Republican Party will get killed, and we deserve it.
And Graham says it, quote, makes no sense that he would be a part of a grand scheme to overturn the election. A missing woman in Tennessee, 68-year-old Marilyn Lewis, was last seen today near Memorial Boulevard. Officials now looking for her. She has a medical condition that could affect her ability to get home safely. She's 5 feet 1 inches tall, weighs around 97 pounds, with gray hair, and she was last seen wearing a white T-shirt with blue jeans and had a purse with her. Now over to the money news. Daria Albinger.
Stocks closed slightly higher for the day, but lower for the week. The Dow rose 76 points, the Nasdaq added 13, and the S&P closed up 6. It was the market's first losing week in the last 3. Strong reports on the economy raised worries the Fed could keep raising interest rates. Higher rates can slow inflation, but they can also hurt investment prices. Smith & Wesson brands jumped almost 12% after the gunmaker reported stronger results from May to July than analysts expected. The summer is usually a lean season for the company, but sales rose 35% from a year earlier. Kroger was over 4% higher, swinging between gains and losses following its earnings report. The grocer's results for the latest quarter topped analyst expectations, but revenue fell short. The company's now in an agreement with Albertson to sell some stores, some private label brands, and other assets as they seek approval for a merger.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 37 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. We have reached the point of the show where we do a little thing we like to call Fone Ur Farb Friday. That's right. We want to know what's on your mind. So give us a call at 615-737-9986. 9986. That's right. 615-737-9986. This is your opportunity to, to sort of sound off. If you got a bee in your bonnet, you got a burr in your saddle. If you got a bug in a place where you really should never have a bug, then you should just get right on the line right now and express yourself within boundaries, because it is a family show. We don't want to use the little red button. We're very excited about it. This is my favorite part of the week because I never know what's going to happen. I got to be on my toes. You folks are pretty sharp out there. We go to the first call. It's Mr. Bill in Hendersonville. Oh, no. Mr. Bill, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind today, Mr. Bill?
Brian, I love how you play some of your special sound clips periodically throughout your show whenever you want to make a point. Like whenever you play Slow Joe saying, "Hush up, boy."
Oh, you mean like, "Hush up, boy"? Yeah, like that?
There you go. But there are three others that I especially enjoy that I'd like to see how quick you are on the drum.
All
so
right.
I'm going to throw a match and see how.
All right.
how
It's
fast
a
you
test.
can-
I like it. Okay, here we go.
Okay. So the one, I think Chris came up with this one where you talk about Donald Trump. Every time they throw an indictment at him, he just gets stronger, like the Star Wars character.
Oh, yeah.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Yeah, that's actually me. I have that one on my little button machine. What else? Give me a couple more.
Okay, and then Kamala's cackle.
There you go. I have
And
that
the
one
third
too.
one-
But
Yeah, the third one I want to take.
it's broken. Okay, one more.
The third one I want to take issue because every time you play it, it's Slow Joe saying it's not working. I mean, it's working. But before you play it, I'd like to say I think he really means that it is working, and that is he is dedicated and determined to destroy the United States economy, and that's why Bidenomics in his mind is working because it is destroying our economy. So go ahead and play that one.
Well, let's see. That's on a different place, but I've got it right here.
It's working.
It's working. Can I just play a couple of my favorites? Because I love this machine, and I don't use as much as I used to. I love when we play what I call Culture Corner. Welcome to the Culture Corner, but we use it for other things as well. I like this one. I remember it as if it were almost yesterday. Yeah, I like that one. I've got this one, which I don't ever use. Because I have the singers in the studio here ready to go all the time on a moment's notice. And then my top favorite one is this one.
Wilson! 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 Wilson!
Which, of course, is Tom Hanks from Castaway. So he's very upset.
Is he in the pool back there?
He's back there in the pool right there. He's splashing around looking for his volleyball. All right, Mr. Bill, thank you. We got to move on. Charles in Tullahoma, you're up next on the drive. Charles, what's on your mind?
Well, what would keep Biden from surprising everybody and going with a different vice president?
I just don't think he can do that. I honestly don't think he can possibly do that. Because, there are certain constituencies that he needs to get reelected. He needs women and he needs minorities. And both of those constituencies would be completely offended if Kamala Harris got ditched. He just can't do it. I mean, it would be interesting because it seems like to me if the biggest problem he's got is that he's old, but you solve that problem by getting somebody who is looked to be in your number 2 slot as uber competent, then you overcome that concern. But you might also have a backlash from certain constituencies within the Democrat Party. So the bottom line here is I just don't think he can do that. It's one way to solve his problem, but they have to find something for Kamala to do. And since there hasn't been a Supreme Court nomination opening up, that'd be about the only thing that I think they could probably, maybe pull off. in a Democrat-controlled Senate. That's the only thing I see. She gets a seat on the Supreme Court, and Biden gets to pick somebody new. It allows her to save face. They can get her confirmed in a Democrat Senate. That's the only scenario I see. But I just don't think he will. I'll be really, really surprised. 615-737-9986. Let's get some people on the line here. Aubrey in Murfreesboro, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, Aubrey?
Hey, Brian, I feel like I should buy a lottery ticket. This is twice in one day I get to talk to you.
That's right. Well, what's your question or what's your issue?
Okay, so I want to know if anybody else feels this way about Joe Biden running. I think that we all know he's not in control, but I think the people in control are the ones that will see him through this because they will not relinquish their control.
They run risk, though. If that's their plan, they run a real risk in that there are going to be a lot of Americans, as we saw in these polls yesterday from CNN and the New York Times. These are organs of the left. They are ditching, they're dropping Joe Biden like a bad habit. And they're now, they're bringing out these numbers that we all knew were there to begin with, but they're now reporting on them honestly to people. And I just don't think that they run the great risk of losing because he's immensely unpopular. Look, I'm telling you, I believe with every fiber in my being that Joe Biden will ultimately not be the nominee, but I can't tell you how it's going to play out. I don't see that developing just yet. But when we get closer, I think I will be able to see it, and I'll point it out to you as it starts to develop. That's at least my hope, okay? Let's go to Monica in White House. Monica, you're on with Brian on the drive. Hey, Monica.
Hey, Brian. Hey, I just think that Gloria Johnson needs to start packing her bags and move on to North Korea.
Yeah. Listen, I am. There's one thing of which I am relatively. You notice I haven't spent 1 minute of time talking about Gloria Johnson's campaign. You know why? Because there is no chance in hell that she's going to win. That's right. Marsha Blackburn will win that election hands down. Gloria Johnson. Honestly, in the state of Tennessee, I cannot see Gloria Johnson winning the election for senator, U.S. senator. Can you imagine Gloria Johnson as our U.S. senator? I just can't. But anyway, I think it's not a story. I'm not worried about it at all. I think Marsha Blackburn will win if she is indeed the nominee, and I expect that she would be. William in Smyrna. You're on with Brian. William, what do you think? What's on your mind?
Who's speaking to me? Oh, me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I give you my choice for advice, I think press secretary should be Roseanne Barr. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that would be something.
Imagine her fielding those questions from that crew out there.
Yeah.
But I'll go for John Wick for advice.
Who?
John Wick.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't think he has any name ID. Be surprised. But thank you, William. I appreciate it. We've got some open lines here. We got some time to fill. 615-737-9986. Let's turn to Zane in Portland. Zane, you're up with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind today, Zane?
Really, I texted you a little bit ago, but I'm trying to figure out how are we actually going to win an election with Trump when he lost the last election against Biden, assuming that it was a fair election and Trump had half the dirt on him that he did before, and he was however many years younger. How are we going to run with Trump and win with Trump when he's got all this dirt on him and everybody's mode of operation is anybody but Trump? And now here we are looking down the barrel of what anything but Trump looks like.
Well, Zane, you are asking a question that some people are indeed asking. Now, look, here's what I'm going to tell you. I look every day at the numbers. And of all the Republicans who are running, we don't have coronations in this country. We have primaries. But in the primary process that I see right now, it's going to be doggone near impossible to beat Donald Trump. He's 35, 40 points ahead of everybody else in the lineup. So it looks to me as if the Republicans are bound and determined to nominate him. The question is, can he win in a general election? And I would say, well, I think that depends. Against Joe Biden, maybe, because Joe Biden has looked as brain dead. But if you look at the polls when they compare Biden and Trump, it's a virtual tie, which is what it was last time. So I wouldn't want to go into the general election with the numbers that close. Again, every day is a perilous day for Joe Biden. Every day is a day where things can go horribly wrong from him because he doesn't have a brain cell working. And it's been pointed out, if he were to have a Mitch McConnell moment where he just freezes up somewhere, it's over. But we don't know what's going to happen as we go forward. And the real question is, can he win? It was interesting to see the numbers that CNN put out yesterday that said, okay, if it were to be Biden and it were to be Trump, Trump would win by 1 point. But that's virtually within the margin. That's within the margin of error, and that's a virtual tie. Most every poll is pretty close. The person who did best in those matchups was Biden versus Nikki Haley, and Nikki Haley would win by 6, which is pretty interesting, I thought. So I don't know. I mean, you have to think about not only who you want to represent you, but who can win in the general election. And I think that's something that Republicans are going to have to talk about. But there seems little doubt to me right now. I'm not telling you what I want. I'm telling you what I see. And what I see is Trump is going to be the nomination unless something happens that we don't foresee. He's going to be the Republican nominee. All right, let's move on. I got time for one more. How about Carol in Nashville? Carol, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind, Carol?
Hey, Ryan. I was listening yesterday when you were talking about that poll about Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
And you also said something about Biden losing the younger people.
Yep.
Okay, so this happened last weekend when I went and saw my son, who's a junior in college studying political science. And one of the first things he told me when I got there was that he finally found a Republican that he didn't hate. And it was Nikki Haley.
No, really, he likes Nikki Haley. Yeah, well, look at...
so maybe that younger generation that's, fleeing Biden, maybe that's good.
Well, the polling data hasn't shown her, moving up dramatically against Trump. But that may change over time. But I keep reading stories where people say there's something about Haley that a lot of Republicans find attractive. And, I don't know if the CNN poll is correct or not. But, everybody else was like, okay, maybe Biden wins by 1 or maybe Pence wins by 1. They had a whole list of people. But the only one that was dramatically different was Nikki Haley compared in a race against Biden. Their polling found that Nikki Haley would win by 6. So that's an interesting thing. It's something you can't ignore, but it's something you got to watch, and it's still very early. Hey, a lot of fun today. Thank you so much for playing along. We'll do this again in about another hour. It is 50 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. Let me talk about D.T. McCall and Sons. Listen, they've been around for more than 100 years in Middle Tennessee. You don't get to be more than a century old as a company unless you have a reputation for treating people right, and I think they do. And here's an example of it. You're going to get an honest price for them, and it's going to be a good price. You go in, you say, I want this appliance. And they'll give you a price, and that includes delivery, setup, and haul away. They won't charge you extra for the cords or hoses. It's an honest price. Now, compare and contrast that with what happens when you go to some of the big box stores. They'll give you a price, and you say, well, that's a great price. I'll take that right away. And then they come at you with the other charges. Do you want the cords and hoses? Yes. Do you want the delivery? Yes, of course I want it delivered. That's why I bought it. Do you want to have the old thing hauled away? Yes, I don't need it sitting around. Get rid of it. And they charge you for each of those things. Then you find out that price they gave you really wasn't a very good price at all. You're going to find a huge selection of appliances, furniture, just about anything that you need for your home. Why don't you find out about their 5 convenient locations? If you've never been one, go check one out. Learn more by going to their website, dtmccalls.com.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, all you do is put all your money in that fund. You don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that, is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
Some more information coming out on the latest indictment against former President Donald Trump, learning more about an FBI raid this week that happened in West Nashville, and possible admission changes coming for the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Those stories and more coming up 5 o'clock right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
John Wick. I didn't understand that one. Who is John Wick?
You must didn't see that movie. Brian.
Oh, it's a good movie.
No.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves.
It's a good series.
He's a bad A.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder, in my world of politics, I had not heard that name. And that's why I said, not much a name ID. Well, I guess that's it. All right. Listen, we'll do that again coming up at 5:30. It is now 58 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 83 degrees, and that's going to be about the high all weekend. Sunny, clear skies ahead. Complete weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. A Fulton County judge has released a full version of the report issued by the special grand jury that DA Fani Willis used to investigate former President Trump, Stephen Portnoy.
The special grand jury report, handed up late last year but only now publicly released, recommends charges against 39 people, 21 of whom have not been charged. Among them, South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham and two former Georgia colleagues, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. Graham insists the concerns he aired after the 2020 election were in keeping with his role as the then chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Graham also notes he eventually voted to accept the results.
To suggest I'm part of some grand scheme to overturn the election makes no sense.
And right now in Tennessee, the FBI raided a West Nashville home this week. The reasons for doing so are now being revealed. At least 2 men were arrested after driving stolen luxury cars. Channel 4's Michael Warwick gives us details.
2 days after the FBI raided this $1 million home behind me, these affidavits show multiple stolen vehicles had been coming and going from the home. At least one of the luxury vehicles, police say, was stolen out of Los Angeles. Another from a small town in Wisconsin. Police arrested 44-year-old Robert Thomas, who they say was living at the home. While the raid was happening, 30-year-old Brandon Boyd was arrested after he allegedly pulled up in a stolen Bronco. We don't yet know about a potential third suspect who was seen speeding away from federal agents at the scene.
And neighbors in that neighborhood had no inclination that any illegal activity was ongoing. UT Knoxville Admission News, the university now considering guaranteed admission for Tennessee high school students who meet certain criteria. Those requirements would be finish in the top 10% of their high school's graduating class, or achieve a 4.0 or higher GPA, or achieve a 3.2 or higher GPA, along with having an ACT score of 23 or higher, or an SAT score of 1130 or 1150 or higher. This comes as the university is gaining in national popularity, and the school's restrictions are getting more and more challenging. In 2021, 28% of Tennessee's public high school students who graduated with a 3.75 GPA or better chose to go to an out-of-state college. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is 6 minutes. Oh, let's call it 7. Let's just go ahead and round it up. 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. You're listening to The Drive on Super Talk 99.7. I am your friend and radio buddy, and it is the 8th day of September. We're so glad that you're with us on this Friday. Listen, we got a lot of stuff to cover here, a lot of stuff to keep you up to speed on what's going on in the world around you. Things are going to get pretty interesting, and they're going to get pretty interesting pretty quick here in the next few days. And let me tell you what's going on. It appears that the House of Representatives and the Republican investigations into into Hunter Biden and really it's not about Hunter Biden, it's about Joe Biden, are about to pick up speed. The real question here is, was there any this for that? Was there any quid pro quo? Did Joe Biden do anything for all the money that these miscreants around the world were paying Hunter Biden for? I think that they got a pretty good case on some of it, but the investigation needs more work, and so now they're moving into a new phase. We are about to, in the next few days, I mean, we're not talking about very many days here, sometime in mid-September, it looks like, we're going to be moving into something known as an impeachment inquiry. Now, there was some concern that some moderate House members, House Republicans that are more moderate than the conservative colleagues, might block that. Well, now James Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, says we've got the votes. We can make this thing happen. There will be an impeachment inquiry.
I do believe that we have the votes for impeachment inquiry. I think that with the revelation of all these emails, that Joe Biden was communicating with Hunter Biden about his business, about all of the corruption that he was involved in. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back with a few of the Republicans that were a little nervous about going the route of impeachment inquiry. They realized that we need this tool to be able to win in court, because that's where we're headed. We've just about picked all the low-hanging fruit. Now we've I guess, surprised the Biden legal team by the route we went. I think they thought we would start on day one and subpoena Hunter Biden. If we had done that, it would have been locked up in court, and any request we had, they would have said there's pending litigation, and they would have run the clock out. But we got the shell companies, we got the bank records of the shell companies. So we built a case that'll win in court. And with respect to the emails, I didn't think there would ever be an email, a government email between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden talking about his business or talking about Ukraine. What I never dreamed of is they would have never used pseudonyms. And what we're finding is there's probably thousands of emails. So this is just more evidence of wrongdoing by Joe Biden.
That's right, Joe Biden. Remember, this is all about Joe Biden. Hunter Biden is just somebody that is part of the investigation. But, you know, he doesn't care one whit about Hunter Biden, except that, through the son, you may be able to get to the father. He predicts that things are going to start quickly, very quickly, in the House of Representatives.
I would predict that in the middle of September, we have a vote. I would predict that it passes, and I will predict that we will use that with all these government agencies that are refusing to turn over valuable information, like the National Archives. We'll use that with the banks when we're in court that were cooperating with us, and now they're being threatened by the Biden legal team not to cooperate with us. And, my job from day one has always been to get the facts, present the facts to the American people, get the evidence. It's been hard. When you fight the DOJ, and when you fight the FBI and the IRS and the Secret Service, it's difficult. But I believe we've gotten more information than anyone would have ever dreamed possible. And yet there's still a lot of information yet to get.
Look, I've covered this institution a lot over the years. I walk those hallways, and I've seen things come and I've seen things go. I think Comer is doing a great job. I think he's really been very, very methodical about this, both him and Jim Jordan. I mean, the instinct is to go for something flashy, something quick, something that makes a splash. But I don't think that was the right way to go if you're really conducting a thorough investigation. And this investigation seems to be run by real adults who know what they're doing. And they've gotten a lot of stuff, and they'll get a lot more as they go forward. But they'll probably need the impeachment inquiry. Now, what is an impeachment inquiry? I guess I need to sort of explain that. It's not an impeachment. Think of the impeachment inquiry as a tool that gives the House supercharged powers to investigate. It's a special provision in the law that allows the House to do things that it might not otherwise do to get information, to subpoena, compel testimony, etc. So there you have that. And so that's what an impeachment inquiry is. And then if there is to be an impeachment handed up from the House, that would be a separate thing. And then if it went, so if you got an impeachment out of the House, the question would be then that's sort of like an indictment that you hand up to the Senate for trial. Now, if you're going to get anything out of the Senate in this regard, with regard to this impeachment investigation, you're going to have something pretty compelling, because the body is controlled by Democrats. They're compelled to do an impeachment trial if the House sends them an impeachment indictment. But they're, when the Democrats are in charge, they may look a little and then wrap it up. The Democrats will be in charge. You've got to have something truly compelling. And, Democrats might be very mercenary about it. They may look and say, you know what? Maybe we need to go ahead and impeach this guy. I don't imagine this is going to happen, but there's just an outside chance. Let's go ahead and impeach this guy so we can get somebody else to run. Maybe that's what they're secretly counting on. I don't know. It'd be fun to watch. But again, things are going to start happening real quick, because he says we're probably going to have an impeachment inquiry vote by mid-September. Well, it's already the 8th of September. So it's going to happen quick. It could happen really, really, really quick. Then there's this. GOP investigators. Oh, no, I got one other thing. Comer talked about the gun charge that is pending, and how we now know that the special prosecutor, David Weiss, will be coming with a gun charge of some kind, an indictment of some kind on the charge. You know what Comer says? He's not at all that interested in it. He says, it shows that they're doing something, but they're not doing the thing that they should be doing.
Yeah. Look, the gun charge is the only one of the dozen crimes that Hunter Biden has committed that you can't tie into Joe Biden. It's the one charge that you can't nail Joe Biden on. Everything else, the money laundering, the violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, the tax evasion, the bribery, everything else, the racketeering, you can tie Joe Biden in with that. The gun charge is the only thing. So, call me skeptical, but I'm still have no confidence in these special counsel Weiss.
Well, and there are a lot of people like that. Look, understand that, if he does come after the gun charge, just remember this. It is the one thing that he can come after Hunter Biden on that does not implicate Dad, the big guy. So, maybe they're just looking to, to do something. Will it be a rap on the knuckles? Will it be a sincere, will it be jail time? It's hard to know. But it will not at all have any implication, this particular charge, on President Biden or even, former Vice President Biden. Now there's this. House Republicans threaten Hunter Biden with testifying before Congress if he refuses to provide leaked court documents about his defunct plea deal with U.S. Prosecutor David Weiss. In a Wednesday letter from the House Oversight Committee, Chairman James Comer, who you've just heard from, Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan, and House Ways and Means Chair Jason Smith, sent to Hunter Biden's legal representatives. The Republican chairman demanded the information given the documents that were leaked to the New York Times and Politico. Given these disclosures that have been made to two media outlets, and this information has been widely publicized, no basis exists to withhold these documents and communications from the committees, including on the basis of any purported duty of confidentiality, work product, or other privileged interest, the chairman wrote. Should you refuse to provide the committee with the requested information because of any purported privilege, the committee may need to seek testimony from you and or Hunter Biden regarding the disclosure of these documents and these communications. The Times published an article on August 19th that revealed that the Department of Justice planned to let Hunter Biden off the hook without charges until 2 whistleblowers came forward to expose political interference in the investigation. So a sort of a shot across Hunter Biden and his attorney's bow as we move forward here. Then there's this. Makes you wonder, how long the Department of Justice and the folks inside the deep state have been working to block these investigations of Hunter Biden and, through extension, his dad. Early warning. Feds alerted to whistleblower concern over Hunter Biden's business deals way back in 2015. This from justthenews.com. A Morgan Stanley whistleblower raised concerns to bank federal regulators about fraudulent schemes and suspicious transactions. Banking whistleblowers first began raising alarms about Hunter Biden's business deals as long ago as the spring of 2015, while his father was still serving as vice president, flagging what they feared were suspicious transactions and fraudulent schemes. One of the bankers became so concerned he eventually escalated his concerns to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission only a few days before Donald Trump won the presidency in 2016, according to documents provided to Congress and obtained by Just the News. Due diligence on involved parties reveals less than clean records. A Morgan Stanley Investment Bank compliance presentation from May of 2015 stated, specifically providing a dossier about Hunter Biden's background, his expulsion from the Navy, his association with the Ukrainian energy company Burisma Holdings, and photos of the future first son with Barack Obama and Joe Biden. The presentation is one of the earliest known whistleblower activities to raise concerns about Hunter Biden and his foreign business exploits. In 2015, they already knew that there was something that didn't smell right here. They brought in the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they said, "Look, this doesn't look right." And nothing happened. Why? Well, the fix was in, and the deep state is real. That's why. It is now 20 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. One of the things I love about Genesis Diamonds is the laid-back feel, the vibe, the relaxed feeling you get when you walk in. There are no commissioned salespeople at Genesis. You'll never have 1 ounce of pressure, never a hard sell. If you're a diamond expert or if you don't know anything about diamonds, they will make you feel at home and at ease. And you'll see a wide range of GIA-certified diamonds, all in your price range, every shape. Or if you're looking for lab-grown diamonds, Genesis has those as well, at prices way below what others will sell them for. All this plus free service for life on any purchase, designer jewelers that you can't find in other stores, a 110% diamond upgrade guarantee, and an incredible selection of pristine luxury pre-owned Rolexes. This is Nashville's premier jeweler, voted time and time again as the best place to buy an engagement ring and best jewelry store in Middle Tennessee. Rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, colored gemstone jewelry, all at prices only other stores could dream that they could offer. For your special occasion coming up, get the most value, the highest quality, the best overall experience at Genesis Diamonds. 2 locations for your convenience, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
2 Tennesseans sentenced from crimes committed on January 6th during the Capitol attack. And looking at test scores nationwide and how the United States may have an issue. Set 5:30 coming up. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Numbers are hard for some of us. I understand.
Thank you.
Listen, I want to bring you, we do our very best to bring you the kind of news that, that you don't find other places. All the moon news we bring you. All the news about space and UFOs, we bring you that as well. But we stand behind no program in our continual coverage of critter news. And in that regard, I have major breaking news. Are you ready for this? Flamingos have been spotted in Tennessee.
Uh-oh.
I mean, this is really something.
Oh, there they are.
There they are. That's what flamingos sound like.
I didn't realize that's what they sounded like.
Oh, I'm running.
Yeah, but I mean, you're going to be shocked to hear this. Apparently, because of Hurricane Idalia, the pink birds have been spotted in places they normally are not seen, like Tennessee. How about this? The hurricane forced flamingos from the Caribbean into Florida, Virginia, Ohio. What? Ohio, I'm not making this up. South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Texas, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. Normally they're in the that's irritating. Can we do something about that? You got this on a loop, don't you? Normally they can be found, down in the Caribbean and in Florida, but apparently because of Idalia, they got blown off course, and there are flamingos in Tennessee.
It's weird. I don't picture. I mean, I know that obviously there are birds, so they can fly. Although I guess all birds can't, but I don't picture flamingos ever flying because they get those big long legs.
And they can't fly.
Well, that's true. Yeah, chickens can't fly.
The dodo can barely fly. That's why it almost became extinct.
But I just don't picture them ever flying. I never see them flying. I always see them standing on one leg.
Yeah, I know. That's the classic. I love flamingos. And when I was in Florida, when I had a place down in Florida, I used the plastic flamingo that you put in your yard as sort of a protest against my homeowners association, because I was in a fight with them. And so I thought, well, the one thing they would hate is this. And I put it right out there around my mailbox.
That'll show them.
And that's right. And so then, they realized, don't mess with Wilson. He'll put a flamingo in his front yard.
Yeah.
And then we have flamingo floats in our pool. We have Fred and Flo Flamingo.
Oh, they're named.
Yeah, they're named, and they're inflatable flamingos, and
Nice.
and they're the people they light up at night.
Alliteration.
Ooh, I didn't know they lit up.
Fred and Flo was the name of an aunt and uncle that I once had. So, Fred and Flo Flamingo.
Nice.
Uncle Fred and Auntie Flo. Hey, we're going to go see Auntie Flo and Uncle Fred. Okay, great. They had a color TV. We didn't have one. So
you like going to their house.
Yeah, we used to go over and watch The Wonderful World of Disney on color TV at their house because they had color, and it was a real rare thing at the time. Anyway, flamingos also are a decorative item inside our pool house. The wallpaper
Oh, that's right.
Are gigantic flamingos.
Yeah. Has anyone been frightened by that yet?
No, the only thing that happened was that I found out that, and I swear I never knew this, that apparently swingers use flamingos as a sign that let other swingers know that they are swingers.
Really?
Wow.
I thought it was pineapples. That's
It
crazy.
is pineapples. Upside down pineapples in a grocery store is one of them. And then, but apparently I'm told that if you put flamingos in your front yard, I never knew this, or perhaps I would have reconsidered the use of flamingos in my front yard. It apparently is a sign to other people, if you have flamingos in your front yard, that you perhaps are a swinger.
You've had some strange knocks at the door, have you?
No. We didn't
Howdy,
know
neighbor.
any of this. I just think they're sort of cool birds. But
You're
one
new to
thing
town.
Hey, welcome to Watertown. Come on over.
Looking to party, are you?
No. Oh, no. According to the World Animal Foundation, wild flamingos are rarely aggressive toward humans, but should you see a Tennessee pink flamingo, you should not approach them. Flamingos are naturally afraid of people and may attack if they feel threatened. Get back, you.
You dirty human, you.
That's right. Like all wild humans, it's best to leave them be and admire them from afar. If I hear that noise in my backyard, I'm gonna sick a French bulldog on them.
Oh, that'd be entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
Chase those flamingos out of our backyard, would you? All right. It's like it never ends. You think, okay, it's over. No, and then there's a couple more. It is now 30 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
"30 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey here with your top stories. Currently 82 degrees on Music Row and a wonderful weather weekend ahead. Highs in the mid-80s, lows in the high 60s. Complete weather forecast and the latest traffic report headed your way in 5 minutes. January 6th, repercussions in Tennessee. Fox 17 says that a Tennessee bartender carried plastic zip tie handcuffs and a stun gun into the Senate gallery that day and has been sentenced to 4 years and 9 months in prison. His mother, 59-year-old Lisa Eisenhart, was also sentenced to 2.5 years' time in prison. And that man, 32-year-old Eric Munchell, was in a viral photo from that day that shows him climbing over a railing while wearing a SWAT team member uniform. Munchell stated that he knew his actions were wrong, and the Associated Press says that more than 1,100 people have been charged with federal crimes related to the Capitol riot. More than 600 of them have been sentenced, with approximately 400 receiving terms of imprisonment ranging from 3 days to 22 years. And studies from the U.S. government reveal the nation's schools continue to lag behind on student reading levels nationwide. And while many school administrators say their students are struggling following the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing teacher shortage, Jay O'Brien notes that this has been a problem for the country since at least the 1990s.
1/3 of the country's fourth graders read below what the federal government considers the basic level. When you go to 8th grade, that number is 1/4. And in high school, it also stays at about 1/4. What we found in our reporting is if you look at Department of Education data, this problem has been going on for as long as the federal government has kept track.
And here in Tennessee, the third grade reading proficiency rate jumped by more than 4 percentage points to 40% on this year's state tests. But that meant up to 60% of third graders were at risk of being held back under the state's tough new retention law. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Do you have a desire to add gold or silver to your portfolio? Well, if you do, listen up. It's Brian Wilson for the Nashville Gold and Coin. If you're looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand, gold and silver or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do business. It's the place I recommend. You'll get honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metals education. That's so important to understand it. They also specialize in the buying, selling, and appraising of coins. And you probably don't have any idea how much some of those old coins you have laying around might be worth. Now, I brought in, this is a true story, I brought in a few silver coins that I had in a shoebox that was in my sock drawer. I hadn't paid attention to it in years. Turned out to be worth $1,652. So whether you're in the market to purchase precious metals or you just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. "37 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. You're listening to The Drive, and we've reached that point. It happens on Fridays. We do it at 4:35 and also at 5:35. A little thing we like to call Fone Ur Farb Friday. I want to know. I want to know what's on your mind. So 615-737-9986. That's the magic number that gets you connected. And we will then we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Maybe you got a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you got a burr in your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place where I hope you never, ever have a bug. Hey. That's right. Just climb up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself within boundaries. It's a family show. Maybe you want to take umbrage. Maybe you want to engage me in a colloquy. Can we engage the gentleman in a colloquy? That's right. Whatever it is, 615-737-9986. It's we normally when I do these things, it's mainly because I want to get your opinion about a specific topic. And so unlike many other radio shows, I sort of try to drive a question when we open up the phones. But I also miss out because sometimes, you have something on your mind that is really interesting, and I'm missing out on that if I don't give you a chance to get engaged. And so get engaged. 615-737-9986. We'll begin. We have the full board right now. Jerry in Murfreesboro, start us off. Jerry, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind, Jerry?
I wanted to talk about, I don't know if you saw that article, I believe it was earlier this week from the Gateway Pundit, about this diaper-wearing Red Sox trader of ours that is giving $4,400 every month to these illegals. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know this. I know that honestly, it is costing you and me as taxpayers a great deal of money to provide the needs, provide for the needs of the people who come here illegally. I mean, think about it. They come across, and the first thing they get is a piece of paper that says, "Welcome to America. Now go vanish into America. We'll find you later." And then the second thing they get, apparently, from what I'm told, is transportation to wherever they really want to go, where they want to end up. And so sometimes it's a bus ticket, sometimes it's a plane ticket. I'm told you can go to the airport at El Paso, and sometimes you can't get a flight because every flight going out of El Paso is booked, and it's from people who've come into the country illegally. They all hold a ticket that they got, courtesy of you and me and Uncle Sam. So, yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. And then you get, they get to the location where they're ending up, and it costs the taxpayers even more for housing, for education, for food, for support. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Millions and millions of taxpayer dollars being spent to support this policy of the Biden administration. Thank you for the call, Jerry. Appreciate it. Billy in Murfreesboro. Billy just went away. Billy, we dropped Billy. Let's go to David in McMinnville. David, hello. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, David?
Well, I've been trying all day long to get right down to me, and y'all hang up and close the board. I'll only give you one here you didn't see coming. It's talking about Trump and a sidekick. Okay, think about this one. Trump and Giuliani. He's got law experience. He's got battle experience. Him and Trump are real good together. I think that would be an ideal president and vice president.
Well, I don't think that Giuliani, Rudy Giuliani. Talk about a guy who was a great mayor and talk about a lot of things that he has accomplished. I think there are a lot of people wish that Giuliani was the mayor of New York City right now because he'd be cleaning some of this mess up. But I just don't think that. I think he's got so many legal problems, and quite frankly, if you're paying attention, there are personal problems as well. So I think probably that would disqualify him. There's a lot of talk about Trump today, because he's meeting with Kristi Noem in South Dakota. A lot of people think that he likes Kristi Noem as a vice presidential running mate, perhaps. I don't think he's made up his mind yet, but there's a lot of people who could qualify. I just don't think that Rudy Giuliani is going to be one of them. All right, let's see. Who's up next? Alan in Pulaski. Alan, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind today, Alan?
Yes, sir. I think that there's a problem with our young people, and they don't have anything to see ahead. Look at the young people in their cities. What have they ever seen outside of the world that they've been in? Idle hands are the playground of the devil. And, 100 years ago, in this area down here in South Central Tennessee, there wasn't hardly no electricity. I mean, you had to think about how to get a meal the next day. That's not happening anymore. We've got too much idle time, and we don't know what to do with it, and we don't know how to direct our children in a direction that's morally straight. That's all I got to say today.
Well, listen, Alan, I appreciate that, and it's an interesting thought, and I think that a lot of people, including me, would agree with you. I do have one little glimmer of hope, and that is that I'm hearing that a great number of young people today, would really surprise you, that they are very disenchanted with Joe Biden and very supportive of conservative causes. Now, will they get on board for someone like Donald Trump? I'm not sure, but they may be a bit more conservative than you give them credit for, according to some of the people that I talked to today. But thank you for the call, Alan. Greatly appreciate it. Is that Myra? Myra in Nashville. Myra, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Myra?
Well, I wanted to discuss those two polls that you were talking about earlier today. And I think that as a society, we no longer vote for something, we vote against. It's all about personalities, and I wanted to hear your opinion.
I think you may be right. I don't think you can run a campaign, an effective campaign, and simply, always be negative and talk about the things that you don't like or the things that you're against. I think you have to give people a vision of what you would do and to talk about the positive things that you would like to accomplish. I think people expect that, but you're right. It becomes, a choice between two personalities. And that's the way it's shaping up right now in this election. Let's be honest about it. How that's going to play out, I'm not sure. Again, I just got this feeling that Biden's not going to answer the bell all the way, one way or the other. They're going to make a change or something's going to happen one way or the other. And it's hard to know how it's all going to play out unless you know who the players are. And I'm not sure we know that yet. If you look at the Republican side of the equation, and if he can continue to answer the bell, Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee. There seems to be little doubt about that right now. But who is he going up against? Joe Biden? Been there, done that. We'll see how that plays out this time. How about, Bruce in White House. Bruce, you're up with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Bruce?
Hello, Brian. I just wanted to ask why Biden never gets a federal judge to stop anything he does. Every time Trump turned around, there was a federal judge stopping him from doing it. And they've just all disappeared now, and Biden's doing everything illegally, bringing all these people in, and there's nobody stopping.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I'll tell you, though, I do think that occasionally federal judges do tell the Biden administration they've gone too far. I'll give you an example, and one of them has to do with the paying off of student loans. The federal court said you can't do that. And there are other places where the Biden administration has been sort of whacked on the nose like a misbehaving puppy. Well, actually, I've never whacked a dog on the nose. I probably should just change that whole thing. But they have been sort of told by the federal courts you can't do that. Not often, but it does happen. And one of the things that I will tell you is it takes a while sometimes for these things to sort of wind their way through the system. And it seems to me that's part of the problem. He runs the country through executive privilege and executive orders. And it seems very rare that it takes a long time for the court cases to catch up and tell them, no, you can't do that. In the case of student loans, it took 2 years. So,
Supreme Court. What about the federal judges?
Well, federal judges have but a federal judge says you can't do that. Then they appeal it to the Supreme Court. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it. Jerry in Bell Buckle. What? We got somebody calling from Bell Buckle. Hello, Jerry. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Jerry?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a suggestion for you asked about the vice presidents.
Yeah, we had an earlier round where we asked who you think Trump will pick as the vice president. Go ahead.
Oh, who I think would pick? Well,
or who do you think might be a good idea?
Ramaswamy.
He likes him. He said so.
But that would kick the can down the road another 12 years, hopefully, if everything went right. And then hopefully in the meantime, they throw Joe Biden in prison because, he's kind of setting up the next president down the road to do the same thing he did and get away with it.
I think Ramaswamy is a real possibility. He's really glib. He's sharp. He's fast. He's a great communicator. He got a 1,000-watt smile. I think he might be somebody that Trump would sort of find to be simpatico with. I mean, he'd be sort of in agreement with him. They sort of come from the same world, the world of business. I don't know. It would be interesting to see how that plays out. But Trump has said he likes Scott, he likes Ramaswamy, he likes Kristi Noem. It has been known that he has a great respect for Carrie Lake, and there could be others. But again, that's not beyond the realm of the possible, I would say, Jerry. I think it's a real possibility. This is mark this day down on the calendar. This is Friday, September 8th. We got calls from both Bell Buckle and Bucksnort. I'm not making this up. Let's go to Don in Bucksnort. Don, you're on with Brian. Are you really in Bucksnort, Don?
Well, I'm as close as you can get to Bucksnort. I've lived all my life in Hickman County, where Bucksnort is. I believe I live probably by the crow flies. It's probably about 5 miles, maybe. But I live out in the country.
Well, what's on your mind today?
Well, the being my body, we're going in a different direction here. My wife and I both buy most of our groceries at Walmart. Mm-hmm. And one day I was looking at our receipt. I noticed they're charging 2 different taxes on the receipt. And I haven't found anyone that could give me a straight answer. I've called Walmart, and it's not only one Walmart that did this. There's several of them that do this. And I'm just wondering, maybe someone in your listening audience could shed light on this, why Walmart charges 2 different tax rates. One is the standard rate, like the state taxes, and then there's another tax, and I don't know if that's some other tax for some local improvements or what it's for.
I don't know either, but let me ask you a question. When you called the folks at Walmart, what did they say? I mean, it's on their receipt. They ought to be able to defend it.
My answer from them, they said, need to call the local city council.
So it must be a city or a city tax of some kind.
Well, like it is, I've shopped at Walmart in 2 different counties, and both have the same taxes, double taxes.
Well, I don't know, but maybe somebody in there will give us the answer, because we have a very wide-ranging and very smart audience. All right, it is 51 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing, so you'll know how much it will cost before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans, $69 a month. For that, you get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, if you were to marry that with a high-deductible insurance plan, it could save you, potentially your family, hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. No long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City for year after year after year. And listen, they want you to know seasonal allergies are real. They understand. They can test you for them and treat you for them so you can get back out and enjoy the great outdoors. Grace Point Healthcare, Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868, to schedule a visit.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, all you do is put all your money in that fund and you don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
You know, Eurofix has a very different business philosophy. They staff all of their locations with more staff than your average auto repair shop. That's so they can be ready when your emergency pops up out of nowhere. Have you ever noticed how hard it can be to get a right now appointment to get your car repaired? Some dealers, it can be more than 2 weeks just to get an appointment, but not at Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without dealer pricing since 1999. Plus, a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car now. If you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, just call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says, "We will never be too busy for our customers. We are here to take their pain away now." Eurofix repairs all European cars. Eurofix says yes to speedy repair when others can't or won't. Family owned for 24 years. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
Six o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 82 degrees in Nashville and a wonderful weather weekend ahead. Clear skies and good temps. Weekend forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. January 6th, repercussions right here in the Volunteer State. Fox 17 says that a Tennessee bartender carried plastic zip tie handcuffs and a stun gun into the Senate gallery that day and has been sentenced to 4 years and 9 months in prison. And that's 32-year-old Eric Munchel, and his mother, 59-year-old Lisa Eisenhart, was sentenced to 2.5 years' time in prison. Now, Munchel was involved in a viral photo from that day that shows Munchel climbing over a railing while wearing a SWAT team member outfit. Munchel stated that he knew his actions were wrong and, quote, inexcusable. And the Associated Press says that more than 1,100 people have been charged with federal crimes related to the Capitol riot. More than 600 of them have been sentenced, with approximately 400 receiving terms of imprisonment ranging from 3 days to 22 years. And in Tennessee, the FBI raided a West Nashville home this week, and the reasons for doing so are now being revealed. At least 2 men were arrested after driving stolen luxury cars. Channel 4's Michael Warwick has the details.
2 days after the FBI raided this $1 million home behind me, these affidavits show multiple stolen vehicles had been coming and going from the home. At least one of the luxury vehicles, police say, was stolen out of Los Angeles, another from a small town in Wisconsin. Police arrested 44-year-old Robert Thomas, who they say was living at the home. While the raid was happening, 30-year-old Brandon Boyd was arrested after he allegedly pulled up in a stolen Bronco. We don't yet know about a potential third suspect who was seen speeding away from federal agents at the scene.
And neighbors in the neighborhood had no inclination that any illegal activity was going on. Crime in the state. Fox 17 says that 38-year-old Quintez Kortner has been arrested after allegedly shooting his brother and almost hurting his mother. Reports indicate the brothers were fighting when Kortner pulled out a handgun and shot him several times. The mother was almost hit by this gunfire. She was trying to break the two up. Kortner was found later after running away and is now in jail on a $255,000 bond. And some entertainment news, Jimmy Buffett may be gone, but his music lives on, and there's some new stuff out today. Jason Nathanson.
He's keeping the party going even after his death last week. A new album from Jimmy Buffett on the way, and 3 new singles are out now, including Bubbles Up.
Bubbles up, they will point you towards home.
Paul McCartney has already said he loves the song, proclaiming it probably has the best vocals he's ever heard from Buffett. McCartney also plays bass on some of the album, which is called Equal Strain on All Parts. The title inspired by Buffett's grandfather's description of a good nap. The album will be out November 3rd.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good afternoon, good evening. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7, fourth and final hour of the drive on this 8th day of September. We're glad you're with us, and we're gonna wrap things up here over the course of the next hour, and then send you off to be with Mark Levin for a while, and he, he'll carry on for a while. A lot of stuff going on. May I have we call it a point of personal privilege? Just a moment to talk about something personal.
Oh, okay.
Well, you know that I have she really is Middle Tennessee's best-known French Bulldog. I'm speaking, of course, about Grogu.
Mm-hmm.
And there she is. She's a sweet little girl. She's such a good puppy. But we have major news.
Ooh.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a little too soon to share, but I'm excited. We've begun the process of having Grogu puppies.
Ooh.
That's right. Little tiny French Bulldog puppies around the Christmas tree. Oh, boy. That's right. We're going to have some puppy love here around our house. The problem is that French Bulldogs, they don't do it naturally.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, it's not like you just find a boy bulldog and a girl, and then you wait for the right moment, and then you put the boy bulldog with the girl bulldog.
You turn the lights down low.
No,
doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way. They're just weird. They have
it has to have worked that way at some point, right?
I don't know. You're asking me a lot of these animal husbandry questions that I don't have the answer to. I have learned a lot about animal husbandry in the last few days, but apparently they need a little help from the vet.
Okay. How much help exactly?
I don't want to get
I don't know if I want to know.
I don't think we really, this is not the time or place to get into
probably not.
The technical specifications of how it's done. But the bottom line is we have picked an appropriate suitor for Grogu, and we're being matchmakers. And so if everything goes well, we will have a bunch of beautiful French Bulldog puppies around the Christmas tree.
Christmas time. So it only takes 2 months, 3 months?
Apparently, it happens very quick once you go through the process. I don't know. I'm all new to this thing.
I guess it'd be almost 4 months.
I've never had a dog that had puppies. So, but I mean, you have to admit, one way or the other, the French Bulldog is one adorable dog.
Especially when it's a puppy.
And there's nothing cuter than a French Bulldog puppy.
Yeah.
So, apparently, we began the process today. All I know is, Cabana wife came for my credit card today.
Uh-oh. Had to pony up for the service?
Well, for the donor. That's right.
Are you at liberty to disclose the suitor's name?
I'll have to ask.
Oh, you don't even know. Come on, you got to get to know this fella.
I know the name. I mean, I know the name of the suitor, but I don't know if we have permission to use the suitor's name.
Okay.
I mean, if we get too public about that, they might get hinky on us, and we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, you don't want them to back out.
No, I don't. But I am very excited. I think it will be so much fun. I mean, as troublesome as this dog was when she was a puppy. Can you imagine if you multiply this by 3, 4, 5, something like that?
Yeah, you're in for it, boy.
I'm in for it. Yeah.
You're gonna have your hands full.
So anyway, that's the big news at my household.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. A puppy.
Mm-hmm. Or several.
Yeah. All right.
Let's clean up this from last hour. By the way, before we move on, we had a caller. I think it was Don in Bucksnort. Wanted to asking about his tax that he was being charged at the Walmart.
Two different tax rates, right?
The consensus on the text line is that, and I do know this as well, it's probably the food tax versus the everything else tax, because food is taxed at a lower rate than.
But we're not supposed to be taxing food right now.
Right now, yeah. So I don't know if this is a current thing that's going on or if it was just something he noticed previously. But yeah, right now we do not have food tax here until I think the end of October.
Is it the end of October? Yeah,
I think that's right.
Or maybe it was the end of the year. I can't recall. We'll have to look that up.
I think it was the end of October.
Yeah, okay. You looked it up.
No, I didn't, but I will.
No, okay. Double check on it. I got a ton of stories that I think are all fascinating, but they don't really, some of them relate one to the other, some of them don't. But I think in the last hour, we're just going to plow through and see how many of them we can get under the wire. Because, a lot of times you're looking for something that, will sort of segue one thing to the other. Segue, one of my favorite words. So we're looking for that, but sometimes they just don't fit in, but they're still great stories. If you have an Apple iPhone, number one, you ought to be updating it right now. Apparently an urgent warning has gone out to Apple users that there is a new kind of spyware that can infiltrate your device even if you never click on anything. There you go. That's scary. Wow. I'm surprised. Yeah, I really am. It comes after an employee of the Washington, D.C.-based civil society organization, Citizen Lab, found a zero-click vulnerability delivering Pegasus mercenary spyware. And they say, what you need to do is don't mess around. Do not pass go. Do not waste another minute. Take your phone and update it. This is a security update that you need to do right away. The exploit chain was capable of compromising iPhones running the latest version, which is iOS 16.6, without any interaction from the victim. You don't even have to, usually you have to click on something, right? That's a real vulnerability.
That's
Do not
really
waste.
Scary.
That's really scary. So if you got an iPhone, update it right now. I did it before the show. It's a quick update. It doesn't take long, but it apparently will protect you from that vulnerability.
Another reason
right.
I don't have an iPhone.
The Tennessee Titans value rose. Again, none of these things go together. Tennessee Titans value rose 26%. Forbes estimates the Tennessee Titans value has reached $4.4 billion, up 26% from last year. Titans are just one of 4 National Football Leagues to see a more than a 20% value increase. The Las Vegas Raiders, the Miami Dolphins, the Cleveland Browns, and the Tennessee Titans. But it was the Titans with the largest increase after the team got a commitment for a more than $1.26 billion in financing for a new stadium, and that's a big deal. Projected value increase was similar to projections from Sportico, which said the Titans increased 44% in value. That they had pretty much the same take as others did. So there you go. The Tennessee Titans rolling in the green thanks to taxpayer money.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. The Washington Commanders are facing this is unbelievable to me. Unbelievable to me. First of all, I was in Washington, D.C. for years and years. 1986, April 15th, 1986 was I went to Washington. And almost from the day I got there was this carping that took place about the name of the Redskins. The Redskins. It's disrespectful. We need to change the name. And little Danny Snyder, the only thing that I'll say to his credit is he kept saying, no, we're not going to do that. That's ridiculous. I will never change the name, until Danny Snyder got in trouble and then he changed the name to the Commanders. Now, apparently, there's a whole nother controversy because a lot of people are saying the Commanders should change their name back to the Redskins. Leading this charge is the National Congress of American Indians, a prominent Native American rights organization which has advocated for the removal of the Redskins name for decades. However, recent partnership with the NFL team and its funding sources have stirred the controversy, and apparently they found that this organization had been backed by George Soros. And so now they're trying to go back to the name, and so it would be one of these things where you'd say, these are the Redskins, formerly known as the Commanders, formerly known as the Redskins.
What a mess.
Apparently, and this is one of those great stories. It's DC people will run this and go crazy with it. But apparently the Commanders' new leadership, because little Danny Snyder sold it, has categorically rejected the idea of returning to the old name. Going back to the old name is not being considered, period. But that doesn't mean they won't talk about it. They'll talk about it endlessly.
You know what they ought to do? They ought to, instead of going back to Redskins, they ought to name it, like, give it a tribe name. And just that way you can then bring back the old logos.
Yeah.
And everything. Call it the Cherokees or something like that.
One of the best arguments that I heard against changing it from the Redskins is, if you're going to change the name of the Redskins, then you have to change the name of the state of Oklahoma, which literally is translated from Indian words, red people. Home of the red people, Oklahoma. Wow. So, it's nonsense. And a lot of Native Americans were not at all offended, but there was this one group, and then we're now finding out apparently they were sponsored by George Soros. Tells you everything you need to know, right? They say in talk radio that if you want to talk, get a good talker going, get people, on the phones or whatever, just do a story about marijuana. And I'm not going to open up the phone line, so don't bother calling at this particular point. But this story is one of those stories that is bound to wind people up. Emergency room visits for injuries related to driving under the influence of cannabis skyrocketed in Canada after the drug was legalized there, according to a new study. October 2018, Canada became the second country to nationalize and legalize marijuana for recreational or medical purposes. It became completely legal to have marijuana. While known cannabis-involved emergency department visits, what we would call an emergency room visit, injuries were still rare. They grew by 475% over 13 years, with a sharper rise in accidents after legalization. The findings highlight a concerning increase in cannabis involvement in traffic injuries and traffic accidents over time, with even sharper spikes following the phases of legalization and commercialization. Conversely, alcohol involvement in traffic injury emergency room visits did not increase over the study period, which suggests that legalization of cannabis has played an important role in the rising rates of accidents in Canada. For the study, the researchers looked at cannabis-involved emergency room visits for traffic injuries between 2010 and 2021, looking for changes that came after the 2018 legalization of cannabis in Canada. And they found that it went up dramatically. So, when you hear people say, well, there's nothing wrong with marijuana, there's no danger. Well, in Canada, there's a pretty good indication that indeed the number of car accidents went up because people were driving while buzzed. There's that. Okay. We got more, even more, but right now, 21 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. How are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. I mean, wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide you that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call. It's 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will ask you a few questions, ask for some information, and they will take it from there. You don't have anything to lose except for the worry. I get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path, that all the T's have been crossed and all the I's have been dotted. Again, that number is 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com. It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm just laughing. You know, I told you that we have begun the process. The credit card has been swiped to begin the process of having puppies by Christmas. I have one of these pieces of software that's supposed to keep an eye on my account and let me know when there are weird charges that they don't recognize.
Yeah.
And it says, I was just there trying to figure out. I got one of these alerts saying there's an unusual charge on your account. You need to categorize it. I'm thinking, well, I know what that is, but I don't know quite how to categorize it.
Yeah, that's a new one.
Yeah. I think it's like $200. This is the beginning. This is not the full charge. This is actually much more than this. But the $200 charge, stud service. I mean, you put that in there, I'm not sure.
Deposit on stud service.
Well, it's a different kind of deposit, that's for sure.
No.
Oh, my God, I can't believe I just did. Wow, we're going to get in trouble on a Friday afternoon, this close to the end of the day. All right, Nancy Pelosi is 83, and she's going to run for re-election in 2024. She said Friday she will run for re-election for another term as a Democrat, not, of course, in the leadership anymore. First elected to Congress in 1987, 1 year after I went to Washington. The Democrat leader made history, becoming the first female speaker in 2007 and in 2019 when she regained the speaker's gavel. Pelosi led the party through substantial well, on and on. This is nothing but, singing her praises. She's 83 years old and she doesn't make sense anymore. When are these people going to, realize there is a time when you just hang it up? Go be with your grandchildren. I mean, come on. I mean, I guarantee you, I don't want to be working when I'm 83 years old. I just don't. I mean, I'm going to be around for a while, but I don't want to be around that long. There's, let's see, I don't want to get into that one just yet. Let me get into this one. Yeah, this is a pretty good story. There's a thing going on. I looked into this today. There's a new service out of B&A called JSX. It's apparently like a small private jet. It has about 30 seats in it. And you take off from B&A, but you don't take off through the regular. It's like a private jet over at one of the private jet hangars. 30 seats. And it will take you, right now there are two direct flights. One takes you to Dallas, and one takes you to New York, or it's actually Westchester Airport, which is a little north of New York. It's a private airport. I've been there. I flew in there one time with Clinton. But apparently it's a little more expensive than your normal flights, but it's like a private jet.
That would be cool.
I mean, you can get on one of these jets, and you don't have to go through security at TSA security. You show up 20 minutes before your flight.
Nice.
And you're on. And apparently they're looking to add other cities. And it's a really nice looking jet. But once you get to Dallas, there are other places. Dallas is the hub, and there are other places that go from there. But the two direct flights are to Dallas and to Westchester Airport, north of New York. That's pretty cool.
I might want to do that just for the experience.
I mean, it is more expensive than flying Southwest. But, I mean, honestly, not that bad. It wasn't as bad as I expected it might be. I've certainly paid more for tickets before that. I'll promise you that. But to have that convenience.
Yeah, there it is. All right, let's check into this.
Yeah. It's apparently a small private hangar nestled under the B&A control towers where they operate out of. Control tower, of course, is you don't have to go through. LED lighting, plush carpet, lack of overhead storage bins. They ripped up the compartments to make the plane feel more spacious. The plane can fly 50 seats, but they now have set it up for only 30, so you get leg room. What a concept. I mean, this is better than first class, isn't it? Not waiting.
Wow, it's really not that bad.
No, I mean, the prices are not that bad. I mean, I looked at it and I said, that's a pretty good deal. They also will do some summer flights to Destin, which, yeah,
Well,
now
now
you're
we're
talking.
talking.
Now we're talking. You get, I said, our starting price here in the Nashville area is $300 each way. Now, that does include free bags, snack, alcohol, but you don't get that on planes anymore.
You do not.
Starlink with Wi-Fi, and, plush seating, leg room, and no TSA, no waiting. You don't have to get to the airport 2 hours early. Think of all the time you would save. And it says, I can't share any corporate secrets, but I guarantee you there will be other destinations. I thought that was pretty cool. It is now 31 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Let me tell you about USS, United Structural Systems. If you got waterproofing issues, you got structural foundation issues, you need to call the folks at USS. I mean, first of all, they're great people to do business with. They're truly a group of really honest people. And they have a great an unbelievable reputation for getting out to your house, trying to figure out, or your business, wherever it is, find out, what's going on and giving you a solution. They're not out to upcharge you. They're not out to sell you something you don't need. They simply want to solve your problem and let you get back on with your life. And listen, if you don't take my word for it, listen to what some people said. The service was A+++, and the installation crew incredibly professional. They arrived when they said they were going to arrive. They provided constant updates throughout the process, cleaned up after themselves, and walked me through what they did when they completed. On top of all that, the work they did actually solved my problem. I am extremely pleased with USS and the whole experience from start to finish. They also didn't try to upsell me on any unneeded repairs or products. Listen, that comes from Jeffrey, who was a very well-satisfied customer of United Structural Systems. Listen, if it sounds like something you're looking for, don't waste any time. Go straight to USS, where they guarantee their best. Serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com. Here's the number. Write it down, 615-488-7855. $39 now past the hour of 6 o'clock. We're pushing all the way till a few minutes before 7, and we'll go to the news, and then you'll get Mark Levin. That's good stuff. I mean, we've been talking about a bunch of different stories that don't go together, but I just find them, I collect these over the course of the week. And on Friday, I feel like, they really didn't fit into anything that I wanted to talk about on any given day. But I still think they have a lot of value, and I want to share them with you. So this is what I call, clean up on aisle Brian, and we'll go through some of these. This one, we talked about this issue, I think last week, but it's really shocking how much retailers are losing every day to something they call shrinkage. It's really not shrinkage, it's theft. It's stealing. And people are shoplifting and stealing and walking out, and these major retailers are really taking just a beating with how much they're losing right now to retail theft. A range of retailers are again blaming shrink as one of the reasons they saw a quarter of lackluster profits. Some of these companies have started to offer more detail than ever on how much shrink or items lost to factors like external or employee theft, damage, or vendor fraud is cutting into their bottom lines. Mostly it's people who steal and walk out with stuff. But if there are other categories, employee theft, that does happen. Vendor fraud, yeah, that happens. But it's cutting into their bottom lines in a big way. Here we go. During a second quarter earnings report in August and September, nearly 24 retailers said shrink had continued to weigh on profits. But the details each company provided and the explanations for losses varied widely. Let me see if I can get into some of this. When they reported second quarter results, some companies like Target and Dick's Sporting Goods offered clues as to how much shrink is costing them. Target lost about, are you ready for this number? $219 million in shrink, in theft during the 3-month period. $219 million in 3 months. Dick's lost $27.1 million during the same period. Lowe's has some of the highest shrink numbers among the companies analyzed by CNBC. It has blamed a range of factors for the losses. Sometimes it is said organized retail crime cut into profits, but in other cases it blamed weather-related damages. Walmart noted the shrink isn't always related to retail theft when reporting second quarter earnings. It said it remains focused on other causes that are more controllable. But it's a lot. It's a lot. Fiscal 2022, Lowe's said $997 million. Nearly $1 billion in shrink. Wow. Target second quarter shrink $219.5 million. Macy's second quarter shrink $11.2 million. Smaller company, of course, but still. TJX companies fiscal shrink cost $150 million, higher than the year prior. Wow. Ulta $71.6 million. Dick's Sporting Goods, $27.1 million. Dollar Tree, $87.84 million in shrink. So, I mean, this, and why is this so irritating? Because not only does it hurt these companies and their bottom line, but they pass on these losses to us, the honest people who go in and pay. What a quaint old concept. I'm going to go down and I'm actually going to pay for this stuff. But because they have to recoup the cost, they have to jack up the price on everything to cover their shrink. I need a shrink after hearing all of this, is what I've decided. Gasoline prices hit the highest seasonal level in some 10 years. Gasoline prices have risen to their highest seasonal level since 2012. Defying expectations for significant release at the pumps after the U.S. Labor Day weekend. The national average is $3.81. Can you check real quick what we're paying here in Tennessee?
Tennessee is $3.38.
You knew I was going to ask that question, didn't you?
I had a feeling.
You are so good. But I mean, here, big picture. Gasoline prices going up. Gasoline prices cause inflation because everything needs gas or diesel or oil to get to market. You've heard me say this 1,000 times. Nothing causes inflation. Nothing ripples through the economy in a bad way faster than high energy costs. And we're heading into an election season where they artificially held down the price of oil and gas by taking oil and gas from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and putting it into the market. And that kept, the prices artificially low, but they can't keep doing that. They just can't. If they do, then we need to be screaming, bloody murder about it, because I'm telling you, that the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is not supposed to be used for this. It's not supposed to be used for political purposes, but it has been. And so I think inflation is going to go up. Interest rates are not going to come down for a while because of that. We got a lot of things on the horizon that do not look good economically. Yeah, and I think it's going to crash down on Biden in a big, significant way. We talk often about how the Biden administration wants you to go out and get an electric vehicle, and how many people just don't think that's a great idea. And now comes recent stories have been more like consumers are rejecting the idea, and so electric cars are not selling. Ford, the CEO of Ford took a cross-country trip or a long trip in an electric car and noted all kinds of problems, mostly with charging. But he's also been quoted as saying, maybe purely electric vehicles are not the final answer. Maybe we're not ready for that. Maybe what we need is hybrid. I think that makes sense. If you want to drive a hybrid car, at least you're not going to get stuck if you got a few gallons of gas in the tank. The gas runs a small generator, which then runs the electric part of your car. So, sort of like a train. When you talk about diesel trains basically, you use the diesel to run a massive motor that then drives a generator. I did not know that for many, many years. I never understood that.
Yeah, they're electric. Yeah,
they're basically electric trains.
That's what pushes them. Yeah,
that's right. And the generators and the engines that they have could technically power a small city. They're that big. So, it's sort of like, as long as you got fuel to run the generator, which then pushes the electric motors, you're never going to be stranded. And I think it's a good idea. I mean, hybrid seems to be, if you're interested in that kind of thing at all, I would never go with the pure EV. I would go with the hybrid. But one way or the other, this story, battery price drops hint at demand shortfall. The price of batteries used in electric vehicles and energy storage dropped 10% in August, according to a new report from the market research firm TrendForce, with further declines expected through the fall that could force EV makers to decide between the alternatives of either dropping their car prices or slowing manufacturing. The reason they aren't selling batteries is there is no demand for electric cars, or not much, not as much as they anticipated. To be sure, U.S. consumers are buying a few more EVs, but they're not doing so at a pace consistent with current production levels. I ask you again, I have to raise this issue. We've in the state of Tennessee have given millions and millions, $800 million to Ford to build plants that are going to build electric cars, for which, according to the most recent studies I've seen, there is no demand for. Has anybody called the people at Ford to have a conversation about their plans, given that we gave them so much, money to build these plants? I think there's some questions to be asked there, and I'm raising the flare. I'm sending up the flare on this, for sure. And then finally, how much time I got left? About a minute?
Yep.
Expiration dates. You see them all the time on foods. Go in your refrigerator, you'll find, no doubt, there'll be something in there that is beyond its expiration date. But the folks there want you to know, the folks who put these foods out, or there are other organizations out there saying, when they say best if used by, doesn't mean that the product has gone bad. It's just it's sort of a recommendation, and mainly a recommendation that causes you to throw out food and then go buy new food because you think it's past its expiration date.
I knew it.
Yeah. They say we are wasting huge amounts of food in this country simply because people are throwing things out that say best if used by, and you're past that date. But that doesn't mean that the product is really bad. And you need to be aware of that. So number one, you can save money. And number two, you don't waste food. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Let's talk about Busy Bee. Busy Bee, they do HVAC and plumbing. You got a problem with your air conditioner, call this number, 615-775-7833, and the folks at Busy Bee will buzz right over to take care of your problem. You're not going to find a better value on HVAC and plumbing replacement systems. If you need that, you may not need it, but if you do, the Busy Bee's the place that's going to give you the best deal. You should become a member of the Beehive Club. I am. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on all your systems. One aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. And by the way, really nice people. They'll bedazzle your day. Just call them and ask them. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, online at busybhvac.com.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, all you do is put all your money in that fund. You don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that, is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.